Hey Matt, this is Jacob and your critique of your final draft. I first wanted to say I liked how you focused on two different sports clubs. I thought it gave the story a lot of diversity and it really provided a glimpse into a largely unobserved world to many students into these two clubs. I also liked your exposition sections, especially within the Quidditch section when you focused on the history and how it was founded and the rules behind it. I think it'll help readers to understand where it came from, especially for someone who's never read the Harry Potter series. And I also like the fact that you were going to add an exposition section on synchronized swimming and the history behind it, because I think it will help a layperson understand exactly what's behind that activity as a whole. But there are some areas where I think you can improve for your final draft. The first thing I would do is I noticed quotes around the italicized text within the first scene at Worthen Arena, that could be really problematic because it could call into question your credibility as an author. I saw August 20th, 2011, so seeing that it took place at that date, I assume that this is a reconstructed scene. And given that it is a reconstructed scene, I feel that italics are more than sufficient in alerting to readers that, hey, this is what we believe was said, but I was not here. But at the same time, by just using italics and taking the quotes off of it, you're giving yourself a little more credibility as an author. Also, I think there's multiple instances where descriptive and sensory details can be added throughout the piece. Like on page one, we're talking about the last paragraph. It says like there were major related groups there for people to sign up. Um, I don't know what you're referring to there. Maybe it's social organizations or department or professional organizations. So maybe that'd be something to add on to. And then on the second page, you're talking about Stop. I think that's how you pronounce her last name, Staup. And you're talking about her build. Well, what about it though? Is she athletic? Is she broad shoulders? Is she in shape? I assume she's in shape, but maybe you might want to express that to the reader. Also, like on page seven, you're talking about Ohio State's team and how they're superior in numbers. It might be interesting to see how many people they have on their team compared to the four members on Ball State's team. On page 10, you're talking about Zacchio, and you're saying, she's got a lot of years of competitive experience. We say, she's got years. Well, how many years? 4, 8, 10. Also, we're talking about, again, going back to synchronized swimming clubs on page 11. You say only a few clubs exist altogether. Well, how many? 10, 20, 30. And then, Estes, on page 12, we're talking about her petite size, that she's the smallest and the lightest. Well, maybe describe that to the readers by giving her weight, by giving her height. And, Nicole Winters on page 13, where said that, she does this in order to help her heal an injury she occurred during volleyball. Well, what type of injury? Was it a broken bone? What type? So I would just explain that to the reader. Also, something else I'd look out throughout the piece is the overall structure of the piece. Because the way it currently is can be a bit confusing when you're going back and forth between the synchronized swimming team and the Quidditch team. And I think what could help you here was if you would employ digression in terms of exposition involving the history and background of these two clubs, or sports, if you might say. So, going back to the August 20th scene, you sort of do this in that scene, but we're at Worthen Arena, and then we immediately go into a discussion of the history of Quidditch and like the rules behind it, and there's really no transition there, no transition sentence to alert the readers. So that might be something to work on for the final paper. Also on page 6, we go right into synchronized swimming from Quidditch with little to no transition to the reader. Again, it just seems a little confusing, and I think a few transition sentences well placed throughout the paper could really strengthen it. Also, I'd work on maintaining the pace as well, and to make sure you keep account for the passage of time. On page 10, we're told about synchronized swimming. Okay, it's 11:30, and they've been working on this routine their entire practice. But how has the scene changed in order to give that sense of time? Are there less people in Llewellyn Aquatic Center than before? Are there less noises than before? Are the lights dim than before? Again, just keep account for the passage of time. Something else, and not really a big deal, make sure you spell out numbers that are under 100. On pages 2, 5, and 10, there are a few instances on each of those pages where that's not the case, so you should go back and correct that. Also, I think there were a few typos as well. At the end of page 11 here, or the paragraph here, synchronized swimming is a combination of swimming and dancing with a mix. Okay, that's exactly repeated. The same graph was repeated on page 9, so you need to get rid of one of those. And then also on page 14, again, the last paragraph, here it says, it started as a workout, but now I feel a lot closer to the other girls, Winner says. They're all so close to me now. I really don't think you need that they're all so close to me now. That seems a bit repetitive, so I would sort of take that out altogether. Then, like I said, these are all small concerns. On page 4, we're talking about the beginning, for paragraph 1. Because of the reliance on flight-able brooms and independent-minded balls that have a mind of their own, that seems a little awkward the way it's written. I would probably get rid of that part as well. Then also on the same page, in the second paragraph, last sentence, you said, since 300, over 300 collegiate teams. I assume you mean on that since 300, I assume you mean a year, so just make sure you replace that with a year. On page 8, you're talking about... sorry, let me get there. On page 8, you're talking about Nicole, and this is the second paragraph. You say, struggles to hold on to their teammate, Nicole, a small stick-like figure. I find a little bit better way of describing her appearance. Again, that just seems awkward. And on page 13, you're talking, I believe it's about Nicole again. Yes, on paragraph 3, you're talking about Nicole Winters. You say, a sophomore and the slightest in the group. I think that needs to be clarified a bit. I'm really not understanding what you say there, maybe by describing her height or weight. But overall, Matt, I think if as long as you focus, keep working on the structure and trying to maintain the pace throughout the piece by alternating between Quidditch and between the synchronized swimming sections, if you work on that, I think you could really strengthen the piece and really produce a fine final product.